respected teachers and dear students, सभी को नमस्कार. First of all, I congratulate all the students who participated in different activities, and you are participating in different activities in such an excellent way. You are so confident that we can say that the future of our country is very bright. Because जब मैं आपकी एज का था, तो I was not able to speak up, and I was very proud also. So you should give all the credits to your teachers also. They are giving you opportunity that you are able to showcase your talent. ऐसा नहीं था कि हमारे अंदर टैलेंट नहीं था, but our teachers never means they give such kind of opportunity. I would like to use this occasion to congratulate all the teachers of Social Science Department that they organized all these programs in such a grand manner. Under the leadership of Mrs. Kalavi, all the members, Gauri Madam, Yogeshwari Madam, Lemon Sir, and Sudhir Sir, and members of CCA department under the leadership of Rajalakshmi Madam, Roy Uman Sir, Avkesh Kumar Sir, Gulam Sir, and our HM in charge Madam, Vijayalakshmi Madam, मीनाक्षी मैडम और मुगल सर, सभी को बहुत बहुत बधाई और धन्यवाद. इतने अच्छे से आपने प्रोग्राम को किया. Coming to today's occasion, today we are celebrating Constitution Day, and this Constitution Day is very special for us because this year we are celebrating 75th Constitution Day. And every year we celebrate this Constitution Day on this date, 26th November. So you should know the importance of this day, why this day was chosen to celebrate the Constitution Day. If you want to understand the importance of this day, you have to go back in year 1757. The year in which the British rule was established in our country after the Battle of Plassey, which was won by British Army under the leadership of Robert Clive, who was the commander of British Army. And the Britishers, they established their rule in our country because they wanted to exploit the resources of our country. Because at the same time, during that 18th century, the process of industrialization was going on in Europe, and the most developed country of Europe was England, where they needed resources. But those resources which were required to run the industry were not available in England. When they came to India, they found that India was very rich in terms of various resources. That is why they decided to establish their rule so that they could exploit the Indian resources easily. But here came the role of our freedom fighters, the eminent personalities of our country of that time, educationists, some lawyers, some economists, who could understand the process of exploitation which was going on and which was being done by the British government. And they started mobilizing the people of our country against the exploitation. And because of this, the freedom struggle of our country started against British rule. And the great freedom fighters and forefathers of our country, they struggled a lot. They fought against British rule for more than 150 years. And we got independence in year 1947. After a struggle of more than 150 years, on 15th August. Now before the independence, it was the responsibility of British government to run the country. They made various rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations were favorable for England, not for India. Those were only made for exploitation of Indian economy. That is why our policy makers now decided that those rules which were being used before independence, those rules were known as Government of India Act 1935. One act was there, Government of India Act 1935, and we were being ruled over with the help of those rules and regulations. Those were only for the exploitation of Indian economy. So our policy makers decided after independence we should have our own rules and regulations. And what is constitution? Constitution is the compilation of various rules and regulations. जब कई सारे rules regulations के साथ हम बना देते हैं, रखते हैं साथ, उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Constitution. So our policy makers decided to make our own rule and regulations because after independence we declared our country as a welfare nation. We are not a profit making nation. It's like USA का goal profit making है, but our goal is welfare. We are a welfare state. All the policies and programs and whatever activities are conducted in our country not for the profit. All these activities are conducted only for welfare. So we are a welfare state. For that, different rules and regulations feasible for our country were required. So for that, our policy makers decided to make our own constitution. For that, one constituent assembly was formed on 6 December 1946 with 389 members. And after partition, obviously the number of constituent assembly, the number of members reduced to 299. Earlier it was 389. Now it reduced after partition. After independence, our country was divided into two parts, India and Pakistan. So the members reduced to 99. Now our policy makers, who were the part of constituent assembly, who were given responsibility to make the constitution, they decided to study the constitutions of all over the world. And they studied the constitutions of different countries of the world, and they selected those portions, those rules and regulations which were feasible for our country, which were favorable for our country, which were helpful for our country for achieving the goal of welfare maximization. So one by one, all these rules and regulations from different countries' constitutions were selected, and these were included in our constitution. In this constituent assembly, there were 22 committees. Different committees were given different responsibility. Most important committee was the drafting committee. We know that Dr. Ambedkar is the father of our constitution. Some students said also he is the father of our constitution. So when I was a student, I used to ask this question from my teacher. He said, why is known as the father of our constitution? So my teacher used to say because he was the head of drafting committee. So I was never satisfied. फिर मैंने जब खुद स्टडी किया तो मैं इसका समझ गया कि क्यों उनको फादर ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बोलते हैं, because other committees were given responsibility to select the different rules and regulations from the constitutions of different countries, and he was given responsibility to make the structure of our constitution, to make the framework of our constitution. Only this committee decided that how many parts will be there in our constitution, how many articles will be there, how many schedules will be there, which rules and regulations will be included in which part. So you can say that his role was like the role of an engineer. जब कोई बिल्डिंग बनती है तो most important role is of engineer. Only engineer decides ना कि how many rooms will be there in that building, कौन सा रूम कहाँ पे होगा, उसका स्ट्रक्चर कैसा होगा. So all these things were done by the committee headed by Dr. Ambedkar. तो इनका रोल आपको समझ में आ गया. Only he decided, his committee decided that there would be 22 parts of our constitution. Originally हमारे constitution के कितने parts थे? 22. But now some more parts के लिए बच्चे ने बोला था ना कि our constitution is live or flexible. We can add something to our constitution. Because with respect to time, we need to add some more rules and regulations, and we need to delete some rules and regulations which are now not feasible. So that we can do with our constitution. That is why the size of our constitution has been increasing day by day. Now it is having how many parts? 25 parts. Originally, how many articles were there in our constitution? 395. Now 448 articles. Originally 8 schedules were there. Now 12 schedules. So all these extra schedules, extra parts have been added because our constitution is a lively, it is dynamic, it is not static. Even India change नहीं हो सकता है. It is not rigid, it is flexible. Our constitution. So that is why he is known as the father of Indian constitution, because he and members of his committee only decided that how many articles, how many schedules, and how many parts. This is his role. That is why we respect so much. We have so much of respect for Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. You understood this thing? Now the process of making constitution was very lengthy. That is why our constitution is world's largest constitution. And our policy makers, the Constituent Assembly, took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to complete the work of making the constitution, and our Constituent Assembly adopted this constitution on 26 November 1949. So since on this date, 26 November, on this date, the work of making of constitution was completed. That is why we celebrate today's 26 November as Constitution Day. But Constitution was implemented, it was enacted in our country next year 1950 on 26 January. आपको पता है क्यों? जब 26 नवंबर को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बन गया तो इम्प्लीमेंट 26 जनवरी को क्यों किया गया? 26 को इम्प्लीमेंट कर देते, पूरा सब कुछ कंप्लीट था. तो व्हाई डिड वी वेट फॉर 2-3 मंथ्स टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट? इसके पीछे की एक हिस्ट्री, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी है. 26 January 1930, our freedom fighter, 17 years prior to our independence, they celebrated Independence Day as a protest against British rule.